बट आई थिंक द प्रॉब्लम है इज कि हम उन सारे लोगों को वो एस्पिरेशन जो उनके अंदर है ना कि मेरे पास जो अपॉर्चुनिटी आई मुझे उसको ग्रैब करना है, हाउ डू वी ब्रिंग दैट एस्पिरेशन इन टू क्लाइमेट, एज ही वॉज ऑल्सो मैंशनिंग, यू वर ऑल्सो मैंशनिंग, हमारे विलेजेस में इतनी ज़्यादा एस्पिरेशन है जिसे हम कहते हैं भूख कहते हैं काम की, वो काम की भूख हम राइट स्किल सेट के साथ क्लाइमेट इकोनॉमी में कैसे लेके आए.
Going for any plantation, we have to be careful that the land is not being damaged, because in past we have seen that wrong cultivations have been done and the villages have faced that heat. So we are talking to the agricultural university there, trying to bring the ministry together and do some large scale experiments. And if this idea succeeds, I think a big change can be brought into the whole ecosystem of energy.
जब हम क्लाइमेट की बात करते हैं, the terminologies are very difficult for them to understand. They will not understand what is biomass. If like you mentioned, solar में आपको स्कोप है काम करने का. If we'll tell ना कि हम सूरज की रोशनी से ही आपको ये करके दे देंगे, तो उनको ज़्यादा अच्छे से समझ में आएगा. They will be able to relate with the work. जब तक वो काम के साथ रिलेट नहीं करेंगे तब तक वो काम में निकल के नहीं आएंगे.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Climapreneur show. You know, Climapreneur, we have always tried to cover a wide range of topics when it comes to climate change, when it comes to sustainability. And today I feel really honored to be partnering with one of the best organizations, Institute for Sustainable Communities, also known as ISC. So ISC and Climapreneur is partnering to bring to you a series of episodes that will be themed around equitable decarbonization. Equitable decarbonization, what does it mean? To me, equitable decarbonization is that whenever we are building climate solutions, whenever we are looking to decarbonize, how are we going to involve all the sections of society? How are we going to make it inclusive for everyone, regardless of the gender, the age, the financial background? You know, how are our solutions going to help each one of us prosper in their lives? No matter from which background we come from, no matter which state we come from, no matter what ethnicity we belong to, no matter what gender we belong to. On today's episode, we are being joined by Poonam from an oscillation hub and Vishal from SteamHouse. But then we really try to explore that how does the equitable green jobs being unlocked through innovative technologies. I really hope you enjoy the conversation. Welcome Vishal ji and welcome Poonam on the Climapreneur show. So, you know, it's a very interesting, I would say, combination to be here, and like I think audience would know that why we're doing this combination. So let's start with Vishal ji. First, you please tell us the work you do at SteamHouse, and then we'll go to Poonam to get to know the work she does at
OSCULATIO, Inoculation
Hub.
Yeah.
So let's go with you, Vishal ji.
So we at SteamHouse supply steam to the industries that need steam for their processing requirements, like making chemical, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, textile, paper manufacturing, and food processing. So currently these industries have their own boilers. These boilers are thermally inefficient, and the air pollution control equipments are not right. Even the safety is at stake at most of the times. We hear and read of accidents, incidents that include casualties. Some of them might not get reported as well. Instead, we set up large boilers in such industrial areas where there are a number of industries having boilers. And through an overhead pipeline network, we supply ready steam to these industries. The boilers used here are thermally highly efficient, like efficiencies in range of 83% as compared to the 65% efficiency in the smaller boilers. The fuel selected is right. So the right thing done first is that we select the right fuel with low ash, low sulfur, and then we have the right air pollution control equipment. These air pollution control equipments are 70 to 90% more efficient as compared to the smaller boilers. So the problem we see every time is the smoke coming out of lots of chimneys in industrial areas, and that is the problem for human health and the ambience. So instead, with the right air pollution control equipment, we are able to arrest all of carbon that could go to the sky instead. So for example, when the government is giving a permission of 150 SPM to a smaller industry, to us the permissions given are 50 SPM, which means that by permission itself we are 70 to 90% lesser in air pollution.
When you say SPM, please break down that.
SPM is solid particulate matter. SPM 2.5, SPM 5, SPM 10 is what we daily read in the newspapers and the TV. These go into our lungs and create problems with our breathing and gradually cause cancer, etc. And also some illegal fuel are being used right now, like people use plastic or such things, which can emit carcinogenic gases like dioxin and furan, which can be very severely damaging to human health. Cancer is what we day in day out read of. So instead, what we do is we have the right control on the temperature. The designing is done right, and industries get ready steam. They get rid of uh, the challenges which they would have otherwise faced from the pollution control board, from managing so much of safety. So industries feel that this is a good option. The central government, the government, state government also find it good that they have to monitor one point instead of monitoring so many industries. And you cannot, make sure that every industry is doing it right. So, and every department is also facing a challenge on manpower. So for them also it becomes easy. We give them almost 99.9% uptime on the video and emission data, which is nowadays online available to them, to the extent that we have connected this to our websites in the public domain. So that level of transparency can be achieved, that any media, any NGO, any government department can simply go to our website and see what is the emissions that we are doing. And this helps by far everyone. And the boiler office, the safety department, even they at times find it very challenging that they cannot keep monitoring who's repairing the boiler without their permissions, or who's not running the boiler right, or not having the right professionals on the boilers at that point of time. But with larger, bigger boilers, one, they have control of the list of people who are working on boilers. Even the guys, the law is so good that the guys who are operating the boilers are also well certified with 10 years of experience by law itself. But again, there is a limitation. So it is a good idea to have bigger boilers and one point where monitoring can be done. So considering safety, environment and energy efficiency, talking about efficiency, the efficiency, as I said, in our case is 83% compared to 65% efficiency. Now this means that almost 35% lesser fuel is required for same amount of energy to be generated. And in case of Western India, where we are situated mostly as of now, the fuel mostly comes from Indonesia, is being imported, Indonesia and South Africa, which means there is a good forex outflow of our country. So having reduced fuel consumption or increased efficiency also naturally affects forex outflow of our country. So we take pride in saying that yes, we are bringing a lot of solution under one umbrella with the name Common Boiler or SteamHouse.
So, as like one thing you mentioned, that we have to reduce, forex imports. And I think that's again like why people are building import substitutes today. So there are two ways of doing it. One, like to build substitutes. One is to reduce the consumption the way you are doing. And I know for a fact that you're also working on many other things like RDF, MSW and stuff. So we'll come back to it. But I also read this thing that India is one of the youngest nations, and we have 62% of our population is between age group of 15 to 59. And if we have to use that demographic dividend very wisely, we need to skill our people with employable skills which are necessary towards sustainable growth. Like for example, when we talk about moving towards renewable energy, or when we talk about this transition in the energy, as I think you might be knowing that the coal sector, if we completely go away from the coal sector, many people would be displaced. But now, how do we get those displaced people into renewable energy sector? How do we skill people in the renewable energy sector? So Poonam, with your experience, how do you feel that gap can be filled, and do we have our workforce skill ready today?
So yeah, actually, I wanted to come to that point itself when Vishalji said that there is a lack of manpower. Because lack of manpower is not there, lack of skilled manpower is there, right? So what is that skill? The first question is, what is that particular skill and from where it comes? So the institute, the polytechnics are again, bifurcated for men and women, where these kind of courses are majorly running for male, not for female. If you are talking about, women polytechnic, the most courses you will tend to see is for beautician or for stitching or something like that. So we were doing a study recently, and we have done the study pan India, where we have identified that people are finding difficult, females are finding difficult to find the right course in the place where they are. So they have to migrate to learn something. So that is one thing. Then how will they, get it at their place? Who will guide them that these are things available to have a job in that particular area? So yeah.
I think that's there. So we'll come back to it. And like, because you're also working in the biomass sector, please first break down that what is the work that you're doing there, and like what kind of different kinds of fuel that you're working on.
So, as I said that we are working, we are very conscious about how much is the forex outflow of our country. So, one good solution we feel is working more on waste to energy models. Now, waste to energy model not only helps us in reducing forex outflow. First thing it addresses is the current challenge of a developing nation, that is waste management. The richer we become, the more will be the waste that we will generate by nature. And there's already millions and millions of tons of waste, legacy waste lying everywhere around every city. So first thing that comes to my mind is that we are working very closely on MSW RDF. Now RDF, as you would understand, is after segregation of from municipal waste. There is some waste which we understand can be considered good for burning, refuse derived fuel as we call it. So one serious focus area is that since every city almost has an issue with RDF, municipal RDF, MSW RDF, and secondly, almost every city has an industrial area nearby where I think this can be used for. So this will be a solution to a problem, or a good solution for, instead of importing something, we can use our own waste. So this is what we are doing very close to my city, Surat. We have an industrial area called Sachin. We are setting up a project there where we will be using MSW RDF. Current stock of 30 million tons of legacy waste is already lying there, and 2700 tons per day is kind of daily waste generation in a small city like Surat, which is and if you talk about cities like Delhi, Bombay, the problem is much bigger, and the possibilities are even bigger. So this is one area. Second is agro waste, which we talk about in Delhi. Also, we always talk about parali, wheat straws, etc. So the challenge here is that the industry doesn't readily agree to pay for the energy. They think ki bhai ye to waste hai, so why are we going to pay for it? But if we try to make a circular economy, which our PM has been talking about day in, day out, if we become ready to pay for this and bring in more machineries to uproot this from the farms instead of simply burning it with 2 rupees ka tili, so it would be a good idea that we use this, again reducing our forex outflow. And there are so many industrial wastes as well, like in Surat, again my city I'm talking about, there is a 200 ton per day of textile waste being generated. Surat is manufacturing close to 6 crore meters of fabric daily. So you can understand that the waste related to it is also in a big quantum, which is also very highly thermal. I mean, like, it's polyester, so it's all petroleum. So for us, it's absolutely full of energy. Meri nazar se dekho, it's all energy.
Yes.
So and similarly in Vapi has around 36 paper mills, and there's a lot of lamination waste that is coming out of recycled paper. So we see all these as a good opportunity. Also parallelly, we are working on a new concept called fuel plantation. So we are looking for varieties, like one of them which we have already thought for is king grass.
Is it similar to energy crops?
Exactly. That's what we can otherwise call it. So if we start planting something like these energy crops, as you mentioned, king grass or something, and bring in societies or the associations of farmers or the villages to grow these products at the investment of a common boiler, I will call it again. So like it is like having a dairy near a village where we instead have a common boiler, and we are ready to supply seeds, we are ready to support the farmers by all means and collect whatever they grow. So this can also become a very big opportunity. We are talking to the local ministers there as well. We'll of course need a lot of knowledge behind it because going for any plantation, we have to be careful that the land is not being damaged, because in past we have seen that wrong cultivations have been done and the villages have faced that heat. So we are talking to the agricultural university there, trying to bring the ministry together and do some large scale experiments. And if this idea succeeds, I think a big change can be brought into the whole ecosystem of energy.
I think that's there. And even I think there was this one crop that was developed in collaboration with Punjab Agriculture University. I think Professor Sardana or something was the name of the professor. They developed Brassica carinata, black mustard. So in there, their concept was कि उसका जो gestation period है बहुत छोटा होता है. तो farmers could do like multiple cycles of it. And जो वो वहाँ Brassica carinata से जो biodiesel बन रहा है वो field पे ही बन रहा है. And farmers can use it in their tractors. वहाँ पर colleges हैं वो use कर सकते हैं. And that's how they built a circular economy. So why I'm mentioning if like also please first tell us about polyester, how you're doing it, because I think she has got like a lot of background in textile, and then probably we're going to break it down that how do we make these systems work, because all these systems are people intensive, as we might know, and all these systems would require farmers, would require skilled workers to be working in. So we'll go there, but first please break down what are you doing with polyester.
So polyesters, as we can understand, is again, as I said, it's petroleum, and energy is there. The calorific value could be something in range of 12,000, I think. And to burn it right, the first thing required is burning it at 1100 degrees of temperature. The furnace temperature should be 1100 degrees, and the residence time for the flue gas should be at least 2 seconds. I mean, like the flue gas should be in the furnace area for minimum of 2 seconds before it leaves the furnace area. And then again, we have an additional carbon column for same, where any residual dioxine furan will be arrested. So the flue gas that is going finally to the ambience will be clean and clear, absolutely non-carcinogenic. So that is what we intend to do with the flue gas, which is the first concern, because whenever I talk about a project, it should be first sustainable and then comes the business behind it.
Is it similar to pyrolysis?
Pyrolysis, I think it's more of syngas kind of generation in with low oxygen. No, but this is absolutely burning. It's burning, but burning at a incineration temperature. This model is almost internationally acceptable for and considered to be most non-carcinogenic kind of reaction. So yeah.
And then whatever comes out of it can be
so the energy is then transferred using the HRU, the heat recovery unit, to the water available there, and it becomes steam. And instead of generating electricity, what I have changed in the business model here is that people generally use waste to generate electricity. Now, to generate electricity, you have to achieve a specific pressure. Specific PLF has to be maintained per plant load factor. While in case of steam, you don't have to achieve that 45 bar kind of pressure. The pressure can be in range of 17 to 15 bar, I will say rather. And there is no challenge of PLF. And you can have supporting boilers with other fuel, so that in case there is a lack of pressure, the other boilers can support the whole idea. And the capex is also almost 60% as compared to the power plants on waste to energy. So I think this will absolutely change the whole process of thinking. We are already working with a very big, I will not name it here, a very big Indian waste segregation company. They are ready with their plant, with an electricity generation plant, but with us they decided to shut off the 40% of capex that they did and supply us steam. This is going to happen in southern part of India very shortly. In next 2 months, we'll be able to supply steam from them. This is giving them a much better economics, to the extent that they have said that the upcoming 5 more plants which they are planning would be totally be working with us if we succeed in this model. And I'm confident we'll be able to do that.
I think you'll surely, because the kind of in-depth research that you've done, and the way you mentioned you want the first thing it to be sustainable and then anything else. So I think like that's a very important phase. Coming to you, Poonam.
I actually want to ask something here, that there are so many innovations happening around it,
Correct.
right? And Vishalji has spoken about involving farmers going forward into these activities where they can associate with them. But so many, difficult jargons and so many difficult technologies, how these farmers will be, having the acceptability of the idea of working this area, because they have some indigenous knowledge with them. And it's difficult to break them also to bring it to another field where we are thinking from our perspective that probably we can train them. But are they ready to come to this?
So, very fortunately in India, there has been a good cultural development. Like the farmers have been agreeing and listening to what our agricultural universities have been saying, and they have proven themselves over the period of time. And this is what again we are counting on, is that we will take help of the agricultural university, one, to bring confidence in ourselves as well first, because of course we are not the subject expert when it comes to farming. So of course guarantee has to be coming from the agriculture university. Then it goes to coming to convincing the leadership model there. So in villages, it's generally through the panchayats and all these people. They are generally very convincing kind of people, and they can convince the farmers. And finally, it boils down to economics. If you are paying them right, I think they will agree. So I think once proven, and the cycle which I am talking about is also 6 months cycle. So every 6 months, a whole cycle can be completed in farming. So it will not take really long to bring confidence in the farmers that this can be done.
Any difficulty to engage females in this?
Yes. See, energy, as Shweta initially rightly pointed out, that some fields are, and you also said that, yes, some fields are generally not so women friendly considered to be. Like, for example, if you're working on coal, if you're working on energy business, generally women are not so welcome. But yes, the automations.
So why are women not welcome when we're talking about the energy and the coal business?
One, they are slightly more dangerous and physically more demanding, I'll say, one. But with the current automation that we are using, we don't see I haven't seen any women working over a JCB. While it is only a button thing, any women can operate a JCB, which a man can do, because it is physically not actually, but I don't know why, but that has been the way till now. But on the other side, most of the IT things that are happening, when we are talking about something like this, a lot of automation is required, a lot of new developments are required, and that we have seen is coming mostly out of females. They have been doing it mostly on the dashboards, coming up with new ideas. Rather, a very interesting thing, a female, she's an electrical engineer and came up with an MIS plan when we started with this. So I asked her, I believe you are an engineer, but I'm more fond of accounts. So she made a complete MIS model, which we are using till date, and we have now taken it to our SAP as well. So to say, there's nothing I believe that women cannot do in our field as well. But yeah, till date, it has been going this way.
Yeah, I want to add a point here, bringing it from Vishalji, that you mentioned two things. One is that it's risky for females, right? And one is it is time-taking, time-consuming, or multiple shifts probably, if we want to put it here. So what we personally think is that if females will be here, then automatically the cycle will be of 8 hours, or that way that even for the males, this will be a better perspective, or this will be a better way to work. Right now मेल आदमी छोड़ना नहीं चाहता है, बोलता है कि मुझे और 4 घंटा दे दीजिए काम करने के लिए. That's why we are asking him, ठीक है आप कर लीजिए. But once we will be starting engaging females, so I think rotation ही वो 8 hours का हो जाएगा, या फिर एक जो भी एक proper working hour होता है उसका हो जाएगा. So वो बैरियर तोड़ना हमारे दिमाग में से बहुत मुश्किल होता जा रहा है कि फीमेल्स कम समय के लिए काम करती हैं. वो सही समय के लिए काम करती हैं, बट आदमी ज़्यादा समय के लिए काम करता है, हम वो नहीं बोलते हैं.
But you know why men अभी तक क्यों ज़्यादा काम करते हैं? In our city, if I talk about, see, most of them are migrant workers.
Right.
Migrant workers. They are there to make money. And
exactly.
साल में वो जब 1 महीना 2 महीना गांव जाता है, तो he thinks I'll take a good amount of money and spend it on my family. So that is the reason that, and we also promote that because it makes things easier for us.
That's the point. अगर दोनों लोग काम करेंगे तो वो जो एक्स्ट्रा 4 hours और 5 hours और 6 hours का ओवर टाइम होता है वो कम हो जाएगा और काम डिवाइड हो जाएगा, काम बराबर से मिलने लगेगा. दिस इज व्हाट द पॉइंट वी वांटेड टू मेंशन.
I totally agree.
एंड द रिस्क इज इक्वल फॉर बोथ. जितना फियर, जितना रिस्क. सो व्हाट वी थिंक इज, अगर कोई एक मेल एंटर कर रहा है बॉयलर के लिए, एक पर्सन है, तो पहले दिन उसको भी उतना ही फियर होगा जितना एक फीमेल को होगा. ओवर अ पीरियड ऑफ टाइम आप फियर से ओवरकम करते हो. बट हमने सिर्फ एक थॉट रखा हुआ है कि इट्स रिस्की फॉर फीमेल नॉट फॉर मेल. उसके लिए भी उतना ही रिस्की है, ओनली एक्सेप्ट फ्यू कंडीशंस लाइक प्रेगनेंसी, राइट. एक्सेप्ट दैट, बाकी उतना ही बराबर का आई थिंक रिस्क है, इजंट इट?
It is.
I also feel that, when we come to like migrant workers wali cheese, like we have house helps at our home, and when I talk to them, so the house help is also a migrant. Like the husband is also a migrant, so they both are working. And I feel that maybe जब हम energy sector की बात करते हैं, the bigger challenge here is that how do we actually skill all of them? For example, today, if I tell you, or if I tell, say, my own house help, that solar energy has a potential for you. And she'll be like, solar energy? How do I work in that? So I feel that India will grow when these people understand कि ठीक है solar energy में मैं काम कर सकती हूँ, wind energy. Or for example, if when we are talking about electrifying rural areas, I was reading this report that actually mentioned कि अगर हम कोई एक rural area को electrify करते हैं, तो जो भी मेगावाट एनर्जी वहाँ पे जनरेट हो रही है, बीट हाइड्रो, बीट सोलर, बीट बायोमास, उसके सिग्निफिकेंट अमाउंट में वहाँ एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट होगी. एंड व्हाट इफ थ्रू दीज टेक्नोलॉजीज एम्प्लॉयमेंट उन्हीं एरियाज में जनरेट हो रही है, लाइक द वे वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट इन्वॉल्विंग फार्मर्स, इन्वॉल्विंग देयर फैमिलीज, लाइक जस्ट द वे इट हैपेंड विद एग्रीकल्चर. Like I think I was talking to someone who actually mentioned कि हम India agriculture और food में बहुत secure है. We want it to be the same way in energy. And I feel India food में इसीलिए secure है because farm पे a men, a women, their kids, everyone works. So how do we involve the entire family into the agricultural ecosystem? I think मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि maybe that is the piece that we should be focusing on when we are training these people, all of them.
I think there is one more point I want to mention here, like you mentioned about house help. Otherwise also, if we talk about women, so women understand कि कुकर में ज़्यादा अच्छे से दाल बनती है कि कढ़ाई में ज़्यादा अच्छे से दाल बनती है. करेक्ट. सो शी अंडरस्टैंड सेविंग कहाँ पे होती है, एनर्जी का प्रॉपर यूटिलाइजेशन कहाँ पे होता है. सिमिलरली आई मीन वी मस्ट हैव सीन रूम से इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जब हम बाहर जा रहे हैं तो स्विचेस ऑफ करने का ओनरशिप कौन लेता है, फीमेल लेता है या मेल लेता है. सो दे अंडरस्टैंड दैट उसमें गैस का सेविंग होता है, मीन्स एनर्जी का सेविंग होता है. इट्स नॉट अबाउट,
आई थिंक एम्पैथी एंड देन लाइक बिकॉज दे हैव वर्क, दे नो हाउ हाउस वर्क्स, बिकॉज वो हर चीज में फ्रूगल हो जाती हैं.
दे नो वेयर टू सेव.
एग्जैक्टली, वेयर टू सेव,
Where to save.
फ्रूगल, या.
So their observation is very prominent. So for that particular thing which we, I mean, जब हम energy की बात करते हैं, जब हम climate की बात करते हैं, the terminologies are very difficult for them to understand. They will not understand what is biomass. However, if we'll simplify them, it's about कचरा. तो उनको शायद समझ में आ जाएगा कि ये उनका वेस्ट है, ये ख़राब हो चुका है, हम इसकी बात कर रहे हैं. बट द बिगर वर्ड्स दे विल नॉट अंडरस्टैंड. इफ़ लाइक यू मेंशन सोलर में आपको स्कोप है काम करने का, इफ़ विल टेल ना कि हम सूरज की रोशनी से ही आपको ये करके दे देंगे, तो उनको ज़्यादा अच्छे से समझ में आएगा. दे विल बी एबल टू रिलेट विद द वर्क. जब तक वो काम के साथ रिलेट नहीं करेंगे तब तक वो काम में निकल के नहीं आएंगे. एंड आई थिंक एनीबडी कैन हैव एनी स्किल. आई थिंक यू वर टॉकिंग अबाउट JCB पे कोई फीमेल हमने नहीं देखी है, बिकॉज वी वर्क इन इंडस्ट्री. हम लोगों ने मेंटेनेंस में फीमेल्स नहीं देखी है. मेंटेनेंस इज़ अ डिपार्टमेंट जहाँ पे आई थिंक कोई इशू ही नहीं है, बट दे से कि ये टेक्निकल है, ये होगा नहीं लड़की से. ये थॉट प्रोसेस तोड़ना बहुत मुश्किल हो गया है.
थॉट प्रोसेस से ज़्यादा इट्स मोर अबाउट अ कल्चर दैट इज़ ऑन गोइंग, एंड यू राइटली सेड दैट इफ वी स्टार्ट चेंजिंग द मॉडल, एंड आई हैव सीन पर्सनली जहाँ इन्वॉल्व हुई है, the culture has improved in the offices.
Exactly.
The people have become more polite, more sincere, and very rightly pointed that girls have been very much more careful about a single drop of wastage. They have been careful about using the other side of the page to the extent. So yes, involving more and more women in the industry is going to be something very important. And having I don't know, when people talk about unemployment in India, we feel that we don't get enough people. So now bringing the women workforce to the field is very, very important to keep this growth story going.
And I think the environment and the culture will have a drastic change, because right now a man in such kind of environment can work open shirt, unbuttoned, right? But once female will integrate into this environment, they'll also know that how to dress properly in front of women. So वो पूरा का पूरा ऑरा ही चेंज हो जाएगा, उस जगह का डिसिप्लिन आ जाएगा, उस तरीके से थॉट प्रोसेस होंगे फॉर अ मेल एंड फॉर अ फीमेल बोथ. So I think it's very important for them to come on board now.
And what do you think that when we talk about all the initiatives that you are already taking, so what will it take for these initiatives to be done at scale? That to be implemented at scale? Because as I was mentioning, I have talked to so many scientists, so many founders, and almost everyone is working on similar things. Farm to fuel, but names are different. Farm to fuel, field to fuel, Andata se Urja Data, and everyone is doing that. For example, I was speaking with Dr. Anjan. So what they have done is they're actually transforming the cottage industry, basically the गुड़ मेकिंग इंडस्ट्री, जहाँ पर जो गुड़ के जो प्लांट्स हैं उसमें कुछ मैकेनिकल डिज़ाइन चेंजेस करके जो प्लांट्स को दे हैव मेड लाइक मोर सस्टेनेबल. वहाँ से अब ब्लैक स्मोक नहीं आता, वाइट स्मोक आता है. एंड व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट एक्सेप्टेंस, सो हाउ दे डिड वाज दे एक्चुअली डिज़ाइन द प्लांट इन अ सेम वे कि जो पुराना प्लांट है नया प्लांट है वो ऑलमोस्ट सिमिलर दिखे, ताकि जो वहाँ पे गुड़ भट्टी पे लोग काम कर रहे हैं उन्हें ऐसा नहीं लगे कि तो कुछ अलग ही नया सा आ गया. एंड थिंग्स हैव चेंज्ड. सो व्हाट डू यू थिंक वुड बी नीडेड to implement these things at scale? Because today we are talking about involving a mass of Indian population, and we are talking about giving them the opportunities in the climate economy, because ultimately जब हमें climate economy में काम करना है तो ये सब लोग benefit होने चाहिए. And to me, benefit to them means having them better living conditions, their lives getting better, they earning better. For example, what happened with your fuel, the thing that you talked about. So what do you think would be needed to do these things at scale?
See, fortunately, I'll say that the state governments, various state governments and central government has already started working on common boiler concepts. Now, advantage what I see on, starting with common boilers is there would be specific people who would be focused only on energy. Like for an industry, the total pie of energy is hardly 4 to 5% of their whole business. So their focus is not really on energy. Their focus is on their core activity. While for someone, this has become a core activity, for example, me. So such industries coming, more and more common boilers, as government, I understand, is soon going to mandate that all the industrial parks should have common boilers. And all the new parks that are coming up are also set to have common boilers. So there will be a set of people who will be focusing on the source of energy, because now for them that is bread and butter. And people like me and many other people like me who are already into farm to energy and such models, and waste to energy and such models, and most of the municipal corporations are also ready with funds to support such ideas, which we have already seen happening in few cities like Indore, for example. I think this replication and this happening will be very fast as compared to what we have seen. In the next 5 to 7 years, I'm sure you'll see a lot of projects happening on waste to energy models and farm to energy models.
And do you think to say जो energy models हैं, for example, someone was mentioning, I think last conversation में कि I don't know the name of the village, there was a village in COVID times जहाँ पर 3 महीने तक electricity नहीं थी due to some transmission faults and stuff. So we should be like more focused towards not electrifying, I think maybe energy at the source. So अगर ऐसी कोई प्रॉब्लम है तो no village is depart of any kind of energy, because when we talk about equitable decarbonization, this is what it means. So probably your technology being implemented in the rural areas where, say, I don't know how do you do it, like it's a village or it's a a section having this do you think कि वो उस scale पे जा सकता है जहाँ पर every village has its own energy ecosystem, छोटा सा energy ecosystem खुद का रन हो रहा है?
आई थिंक येस, बट उसके लिए तो अब जो हाइब्रिड मॉडल्स ऑलरेडी काम कर रहे हैं, सोलर प्लस विंड, आई थिंक दे आर मोर बेटर ऑप्शन फॉर हैविंग electricity for the villages. When you talk about electrification, my product is more about energy to the industry.
Energy also, like for example, if there's a farmer, if you're making, so what, when we're making fuel, if say we make diesel or any sources, that farmer doesn't have to actually travel to the petrol pump. तो उसके लिए वो एक cost saving हो जाती है, because उसको अपना ट्रैक्टर लेके जाना पड़ रहा है, for example whatever 10-12 kilometers it is, and if it is happening at the source, they can use the same energy for their village में जो भी activities हो रही हैं.
I think yes, can be done, and something should be done. A very good thought, I will say, Shweta.
What do you think about it?
I'm really not sure about it. This is possible, but...
And that is how it is. I feel it is going to generate employment opportunities for people in the same village, irrespective of their gender, of their race, of where they come from. And then we can have like smaller, say, training institutes in every village, like to train people. So, also like I would like to come to you about this. We always hear this thing कि training institutes नहीं है अच्छे, and जो हैं वो बहुत दूर हैं. So how do we train our people in climate in general?
ट्रेनिंग इंस्टीट्यूट नहीं है इज़ नॉट द राइट थिंग. इंस्टीट्यूट है और सही कोर्सेज नहीं है, सही फैकल्टीज़ नहीं है, सही गाइडेंस नहीं है. सो द मोमेंट द चिल्ड्रन इज़ आउट ऑफ हिज और हर 12th स्टैंडर्ड, उनको पता ही नहीं है कि क्या करना क्या है. सो सही गाइडेंस नहीं है और उसके बाद में भी इतने बैरियर्स हैं कि बायसेस हैं और बैरियर्स हैं कि कहाँ जाना है, किसको अप्रोच करना है. ये सो इफ़ आई टेक माई एग्जाम्पल, मुझे ही नहीं पता था कि पैकेजिंग में भी एक मास्टर्स होता है, या सिर्फ 4 चीज़ें आती थी. मार्केटिंग होता है, फाइनेंस होता है, HR होता है और एक आधा और. सो बीइंग स्टडीड इन अर्बन सेटअप, किसी को रूरल में कितना पता होगा, दैट इज़ वन थिंग. सो लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस एंड नॉलेज. इफ़ वी टॉक अबाउट कि चलो अभी थोड़ा वहाँ पे आ गया है, सो जो दूसरा बायसिस है कि इमीडिएटली 12th के बाद ही आपको पैसा कमाना है, दैट इज़ अनदर प्रॉब्लम. सो पेरेंट्स भी उसी तरीके से देखते हैं, मेल को उस तरीके से देखते हैं, फीमेल को उस तरीके से देखते हैं. सो देयर वाज अ केस आई वांट टू मेंशन. देयर वाज अ गर्ल in one of the company. I was in a research study with them. So I said कि आप कितने साल की? She said I'm just 18. मतलब अभी से आपने काम करना स्टार्ट कर दिया. Then she mentioned that I wanted to be a lab technician, लेकिन मैं यहाँ पे अभी असेंबली में काम कर रही हूँ. पर क्यों काम कर रही हूँ? The reason is कि उसकी विलेज में जो ड्राइवर आता था और लोगों को लेके आने के लिए, उसने बोला कि यहाँ पे एक नौकरी खाली है, इसको आप भेज दीजिए तो इसको अभी से नौकरी लग जाएगा. सो दे ग्रैब द फर्स्ट अपॉर्चुनिटी. दे डोंट वेट फॉर द राइट अपॉर्चुनिटी. सो वो दैट इज़ जस्ट बिकॉज ऑफ लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस एंड लैक ऑफ नॉलेज कि वो मिलेगा आपको, कहाँ मिलेगा, किस तरीके से मिलेगा, ये अभी सबको पता नहीं चला है. Then talking about the polytechnic, I was talking to one of the owner of a polytechnic. She said कि हम लोगों को पॉलीटेक्निक में कोर्स ही नहीं रन करने देते हैं, और रन करने देंगे तो वहाँ पे 2 फीमेल्स आएंगी. 2 फीमेल पे देयर इज़ नो पॉसिबिलिटी टू मेंटेन अ टीचर, मेंटेन अ इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फॉर two candidates. So ये challenges.
And how do we solve it when we know this exists? What is the solution? For example, with that girl also, I can understand that why she might have picked that opportunity. My grandfather started working really early, and if he wouldn't have, I wouldn't have been sitting in this setup today. I have personally, like my father started working like really early, and there are challenges, and maybe that girl also had some challenges which she thought ki I need this opportunity right now. I can understand that what that person might be going through, but I think the प्रॉब्लम है इज़ कि हम उन सारे लोगों को वो एस्पिरेशन जो उनके अंदर है ना कि मेरे पास जो अपॉर्चुनिटी आई मुझे उसको ग्रैब करना है, हाउ डू वी ब्रिंग दैट एस्पिरेशन इन टू क्लाइमेट. एज ही वॉज ऑल्सो मैंशनिंग, यू वर ऑल्सो मैंशनिंग कि विमेन आर एक्सट्रीमली फ्रूगल. विमेन हर चीज़ को दे आर लाइक अच्छा ठीक है इसको कैसे करना है. एंड सेम इज़ विद मैन. बट द पॉइंट इज हमारे विलेजेस में इतनी ज़्यादा एस्पिरेशन है, जिसे हम कहते हैं भूख कहते हैं काम की. वो काम की भूख हम राइट स्किल सेट के साथ क्लाइमेट इकोनॉमी में कैसे लेके आए?
So there are activities happening around that. So we have also planned some exposure visits for the student to the industry to see that how the company functions. But the only visit of student will not suffice here.
Yes.
So we have to add the visit of their parents so that they have
see the
a
opportunities.
feeling of comfort that where their kids will be
Yes.
employed, because this is their feeling कि मेरा बच्चा कहाँ जा रहा है. And अगर वो मना कर देंगे कि आपको नहीं जाना है, तो they will have to take a step back. So we are planning those kind of visits even for the parents to such industries.
And I think that's a deep thought initiative, because you're actually going like a step back ki challenge kahan par aa raha hai. And also like I also read that you also work in ESG. So firstly though, please break down what ESG is and what does it actually mean, and what is your work in this field?
So ESG is environment, social and governance. These are very 3 simple terms. Environment, we all know that we are talking about carbon emission, we are talking about climate change and these all things around the industries. And overall, social is very important to talk here, because wherever we generally see ESG, people only see E as a big factor and do not focus on S. S is social. Everything starts with social. If a person doesn't have right, I mean, like I'm talking about the human right, how the person will talk about the environmental right? सो वो एस के ऊपर हम लोग कभी काम नहीं कर पाते हैं. सो वी स्पेशलाइज ऑन एस. वी टॉक अबाउट ह्यूमन राइट्स कि कहाँ पे एक्सप्लॉयटेशन होता है. सो टॉकिंग अबाउट द करंट इंडस्ट्री, किस तरीके से मॉडर्न डे स्लेवरी होता है, किस तरीके से एक माइग्रेंट वर्कर आता है एंड वो 4 घंटा 5 घंटा उसको एक्स्ट्रा काम करना पड़ता है. दैट वी count under modern day slavery, and it's a very crucial act in UK. So yeah, and G is governance, that what are the protocols and rules and regulations to control that E part and S part. That's G, governance.
And what policies or governance you think that is necessary at the current point, because the point of transition that where we are today, I also believe that in the future every job will be a climate job, every company will be a climate company, and every company today is functioning the ESG, and ESG really has become a hot topic today.
Absolutely, yes. So if you talk about rules and regulations and policies, see, there are number of policies lying down with the organization. Like if you talk about starting from basics, child labor policy, or talk about overtime policy, leave policy, XYZ policy, a bundle of policies lying under the table of compliance. I think even if I'm really not sure how many people in an organization understand for whom these policies are made. These are just on papers. If I'm not wrong, just correct me. We talk about inducting these policies to our employees, but it doesn't happen in actual, right? So, but you said these policies are already being let down by government, by the respective department, for the employees, for their wellness, for their basic rights, for environmental rights, for their health and safety rights, and for their social rights. So these are already there. There will be no new policy. There can be amendments, there can be upgradations. The policies are already there.
It just needs to be executed.
It needs to be executed. These need to be communicated.
Communicated, yeah.
So these are not communicated.
What do you think about that?
Child labor, absolutely not there nowadays.
Do you have like specific ESG policies?
Yeah, we absolutely have a team who takes care of all the ESG compliances in our companies. And these days, most of the industries, I'll say 95% of the industries are abiding by all the rules. Child labor especially is not at all, I haven't seen the child labor since say 15-20 years now already.
In your industry or overall?
Overall, I'm talking about if Surat, I'm again talking about Surat, it's an industrial city. It's an industrial city, and we don't see any child labor happening as such, one. Second, I'll slightly differ at this point that a person is made to work an extra 4 to 5 hours. The problem instead is, as again I'll repeat that word, the migrant workers think that they are in some city to work, and somehow we Indians are not made to work 5 days a week. Our bodies are good enough to work hard. And see, if this is the difference, you see how UK and Europe is now gradually failing, I would say, and how we are progressing, because we have taken that hard work as our policy. And no one is being forced to do that. Rather, in some of the industries, the workers are not ready to work for 8 hours because they want to utilize their time. What are they going to do at home if he is not here with his family and he hasn't got much other opportunity? So I think using the forced word is somehow not digestible. And otherwise, yes, the systems are yet a little more to be implemented. People are not ready to pay a provident fund from both the sides. So yes, that has to be convinced. Some policies has to be also changed from the government side, that if a worker doesn't want to get his PF deducted, then he should be allowed to do so out of his consciousness, because he's an 18-year-old plus and he knows what is right and wrong for him. He wants a better takeaway, and he has the right to decide that. But we are still following some rules which have been laid 50 years back, and I very strongly believe that the government of India is now revising a lot of laws which are in favor of general understanding of people. So a slight difference between you and me here.
Yes, absolutely. I find that difference because, if we talk about PF and ESI, see, now this is very, very crucial, because we all have seen the COVID times, and only the fund of COVID has saved so many lives. That is one. Number two, when we talk about ESI, so yes, there are people who don't want to get the ESI, get deducted from their salaries. But the kind of examples which we have observed in our researches, so there was a female who was suffering from cancer, and उनका husband was working with a factory. And बहुत मुश्किल से हमने ESI उस कंपनी में इम्प्लीमेंट कराया था. And then after some time when we went for an impact, and that the person just randomly came to us and mentioned that जो मेरी वाइफ का कैंसर का खर्चा था वो 4 लाख रुपए था, और मेरा सिर्फ आई थिंक 10 या 15 हज़ार रुपया खर्चा हुआ. सो इफ़ वी टॉक कि उसका सैलरी कितना था, उस इंसान का सैलरी ही आई थिंक 15,000 रुपये था, जो अगर वो 4 लाख रुपया इंटरेस्ट पे लेता तो शायद वो कभी इंटरेस्ट ही नहीं चुका पाता. प्रिंसिपल तो बहुत दूर की बात है. एंड ही कुड नॉट हैव सेव्ड हिज वाइफ्स लाइफ अगर उसने वो ESI नहीं लिया होता. सो वो छोटा छोटा जो चीज़ें गवर्नमेंट ये प्रोवाइड कर रही है, दीज आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट बिकॉज दे कैन नॉट अफोर्ड द फ्लैशी हॉस्पिटल्स लाइक probably we can. Or so that is one thing. Also, the problem is not Vishal ji, I'll just honestly mention, the problem is not PF कटवाने का या ESI कटवाने का. The problem is in the faith and trust of an employee in the employer कि वो अपना शेयर सबमिट करेगा कि नहीं करेगा. वो मेरा शेयर तो काट लेगा, PF का मेरा डिडक्शन हो जाएगा, ESI का मेरा डिडक्शन हो जाएगा, बट द कंप्लायंस विल बी ओनली कंप्लीटेड जब एम्प्लॉयर भी अपना शेयर डिपार्टमेंट में जमा करेगा. तो जो फेथ है ना, उसका प्रॉब्लम है यहाँ पे. बिकॉज जिस दिन उसको पता चल रहा है ना कि मेरा कार्ड कंप्लीट है, आज मुझे मिल रहा है हॉस्पिटल से बेनिफिट, वो पूरा का पूरा पैसा आपको ESI में देगा या PF में देगा, बिकॉज उसमें उसको बेनिफिट है.
I agree.
And climate, upcoming climate startups. So A, what kind of work you do with them, and B, for example, if today someone is building a climate tech company or in general a climate startup, what kind of, things that they should be extremely, they should all have in their DNA of the company while they are building a climate friendly startup.
So I think if we talk about DEI, I mean, inclusivity should be the first thing, that every gender should be included. Now we are just stuck with the females, but with the upcoming time, transgenders will also be engaged in all the fields. So the very simple thing that how many of people in our company will not look back if we will employ any transgender? How will he survive in this system? तो वो उसको कैसे ब्रेक डाउन करेंगे? वेयर विल वी विल बी ब्रिंगिंग देयर इंक्लूसिविटी? सो अभी तो हम फीमेल पे ही फाइट कर रहे हैं, वहाँ तो भी बहुत दूर लगता है कि जाने में समय लगेगा. बट येस, फॉर स्टार्टअप्स आई थिंक द थिंग शुड नॉट बी वेरी मच डिफाइंड, बट इट शुड बी broadly that the thought should be broad, that anybody can be engaged in this, be it male, be it female, or anyone.
I think, and that's the thought actually, because I think growth happens jab everyone is a part of it. So thank you guys, thank you for being with us here today, and thank you for sharing what you've got, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Shweta. Thank you, Poonam.
Thank you.